Welcome to Extension Connection on Super Talk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, flood recovery, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Super Talk 1270 News Studio, this is Extension Connection.
Good morning and welcome to the Extension Connection. This is the Morton County Extension staff that's here today, and we are live in the studio. So if you're interested in calling and asking us questions, please feel free to do so. 663-1270 is the number. If you're too shy, please feel free to call us at 667-3340. We will be back in the office after the program. Carla, what do you want to talk about, or what will you be talking about? Not what you want to.
What I want to. I want to talk about bison. Okay, no. I'm going to visit about Rockets to the Rescue, which is the 2014 National Youth Science Day project that is coming up here rather quickly. And then also some volunteer training opportunities that 4-H is offering here coming up later this fall.
Okay, and how about you, Vanessa?
Oh, I have some upcoming programs in managing stress. And I think all of us have a little bit of stress in our lives. And then also Dining with Diabetes is a program coming up, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then also thinking about all those wonderful tomatoes that are hanging on the vine, and talking a little bit about preserving those and keeping them so that we have fresh tomatoes even in the winter.
Okay, and how about you, Ashley?
I will be talking about what to do with all of our vegetable produce that's in the garden yet, and the possible frost scare that we might be having soon, and how to take care of our produce that is still out there. And then I will talk, just touch briefly on the average age of beef cows in our herds in North America.
Okay, and I'm going to visit about the North Dakota Range Management School that's going to be held. And then also we will be having a dairy insurance meeting. This is connected with the Farm Bill, and so any dairy producers that are interested, this event will be held October 6th at the Mandan 7 Seas in the basement meeting room. It runs from 10 through 1:30. Lunch is included. If you're interested in attending, you should call our office at 667-3340 so we can get a meal count. The cost to attend the meeting is $10. You can pay that at the door, but please pre-register at our office by calling 667-3340. If you have a laptop, you sure can bring that as well. There will be some laptops there that you will be able to use with the program meeting. But if you have your own, you sure can bring your own and work on your own computer, and that would help you out as well. Once again, that event is Monday, October 6th at the Mandan Farm Credit Services building in their basement. And so if you're interested, please call our office. Just a quick note that the North Dakota Range Management School schedule is next week. We still would take some registrations. We need to know by Friday if you plan on attending. It's Tuesday, September 16th through the 18th, starting at 1 o'clock on the 16th. And it'll be in the afternoon, and then all day on the 17th, and then until about 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 18th. The event will be held at the Cross Ranch State Park. And so if you have a camper, you sure can bring that and reserve a spot and stay there. Or I think that there are some yurts available that you could stay right there. Or you can drive back and forth from Mandan if you're interested, or stay in Washburn at their local hotel. The cost for the range camp is... let's see, it goes up to $200 because you will be signing in late. There are CEOU credits available for certified professionals in range land management if you're interested in that. If you're interested, please feel free to call us at 667-3340. And if you're interested in attending that range management school, producers will go home with a range management plan. We ask them to bring their FSA maps so that we can work on range management plans, and hopefully that will help you determine how you want to set up your own grazing system. And then just another quick note before I turn it over to somebody else, or we may have to go to a break here. I've been visiting with producers about scab or fusarium head blight in small grains. There is some of that out there, and the concern is when you're feeding that grain or using it for human consumption and then also feeding it to livestock. And there's kind of two schools of thought out there. The Food and Drug Administration has established advisory levels for DON or vomitoxin in grains. And the FDA recommendations are that no more than 1 part per million for finished grain products for human consumption. There is no standard for raw grain going into the milling process. If you have cattle over 4 months of age, the limits for FDA are 10 parts per million, and that shouldn't exceed more than 50% of the diet. In poultry, it's 10 parts per million, providing the grain doesn't exceed 50% of the diet. In swine, which is the species that we need to be most concerned about, is 5 parts per million, and you should not exceed more than 20% of the ration. In all other animals, 5 parts per million, and it shouldn't exceed more than 40% of the diet. And so those are FDA rules. But however, the Carrington Research Extension Center and the Minnesota Calf Feeders have published other information that producers might be interested in. In Minnesota, they did a study with finishing steers that were fed up to 21 parts per million of DON, and there was no differences versus the control, and that was done in 1995. In Carrington, Vern Anderson did some work with barley grain for forage for beef cattle, and first calf heifers were fed dry roll barley with 36.8 parts per million at 8 pounds and 12 pounds per head per day, and there was no negative effects observed. And he also fed finishing cattle up to 12.6 parts per million in the entire ration without affecting feedlot performance or characteristics. This article can be found on the Carrington Research Extension website, or if you're interested, I will have that information as well at our local extension office. And so that's some interesting research that has been done. So research is saying that you can feed them more than actually what FDA is saying. And so if you want to go on the side of caution, you can do that. Otherwise, you can feed more than is what is recommended. We are about ready to go for the break, and we will be back with more of the Extension Connection after the break.
Right now, 46.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to the Extension Connection. The Morton County staff, Jackie Buckley, is here today along with Carla Mickle, Vanessa Hoynes, and Ashley Stegman. Carla, let's talk about Youth Science Day.
Yes, it's coming up very quickly. On October 8th is the official day. We will be visiting a school that day, Roosevelt Elementary, and be working with our 4th graders on the Rockets to the Rescue project. And then prior to that, we're going to be doing rocket science with 3 4-H clubs in the county as well. And the 4-H National Youth Science Day, it's an exciting interactive learning experience that engages thousands of youth from across the country in conducting national science experiments. And this year's experiment comes to us from the University of Arizona. It was developed in part for the National Science Experiment for National Youth Science Day, and it's called Rockets to the Rescue. And it explores the field of aerospace engineering. And we got to do this at a training here recently in August, and it was pretty fun. Designing our own rockets and trying to launch raisins, because the gist of the mission is to get food to an island that does not have access by boat or by plane. And so we had to send it over per rocket. The youth will be tasked with the same mission in light of the recent natural disasters such as Typhoon Haiyan. National 4-H Council is asking youth to design and build an aerodynamic food transportation device that can deliver a payload of nutritious food to disaster victims. and that's going to be raisins. Youth will learn engineering concepts, develop math skills, learn about nutrition, and help solve a relevant global issue. It's a pretty neat experiment. It's all part, of course, the STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's really the wave of the future. And experts credit technological innovation with almost half of the U.S. economic growth over the past 50 years. And nearly all of the 30 fastest growing occupations in the next decade will require at least some background in science, technology, engineering, and math. America is actually falling behind in these areas. Today, the United States ranks 27th among the developed nations, with college students receiving science or engineering degrees. Only 1% of fourth graders, 2% of eighth graders, and 1% of high school seniors are deemed advanced in science. Only 45% of U.S. high school graduates in 2011 were ready for college work in math, and 30% were ready in science. So this is a way to get youth engaged in, again, the science, technology, engineering, and math fields. And in the past, since 2008, more than 5 million youth have participated in the 4-H National Youth Science Day experiments, which include robotics, agricultural science, rocketry, wind power, environmental science, and alternative energy. We've done quite a few different experiments the last couple years, and they're all really fun and very engaging for the youth, and a great way to get kids interested in the STEM area and increase their knowledge, really. So if you're interested, maybe you have a school or your child's school would be interested in having us come and work with them and do the rocket experiment. If so, you can sure call our office, 667-3340, and we can try to set it up with local teachers here in the area. I know Burleigh County is working on the same thing over there, so you could call the Burleigh County office as well.
And that's also during National 4-H Week, correct,
it is.
Carla?
Yep, National 4-H Week is the 6th through the 11th, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that here coming up in future radio shows. So, the other event that I have is actually for 4-H leaders, and it is a training coming up. It's pretty far in advance, but in case you wanted to mark your calendar, it is on November 18th, and it's a training in Richardson at the Richardson Taylor High School. Excuse me, it's Wednesday, November 12th. And the deadline is October. I don't want you to be late. October 29th is the deadline, and they have to have a minimum of 20 participants. And this is some really great training for teens and adult 4-H volunteer leaders. They meet and they have supper, and Brad Cogdale from the Center for 4-H, of course, he's the director for the Center for 4-H, will be there to help answer questions that local volunteers might have regarding the 4-H program and address any issues they might have. And then they have some speed programming, and the speed programming consists of three different classes in 2 different sessions. So session 1 is fun 4-H club meetings, and they talk about what the foundation of really a good 4-H program is the 4-H club meeting and the setting that it's in, and they talk about how you can successfully plan to have a great club meeting. Another session is consumer choices, where 4-Hers can learn the basics to consumer choices judging, from filling out judging cards to giving successful reasons. And I know just from working with the consumer choices group that it's important to learn how to fill out those cards and work with that. So there's also 4-H livestock and animal ID. As part of food security and animal health, 4-H project animals need to be identified. We will discuss the requirements for animal identification at the state fair and suggestions for member project records and care of their animals. And then in session 2, we're going to have, of course, fun with 4-H science, different activities, hands-on science, engineering, and technology related activities that your clubs can complete and have some fun and also learn from. Judging events and teams. There's a lot of different judging events and teams that county 4-H members can participate in the state, and this is really learning all about what those events are. Everything from crop judging, dairy judging, horse judging, land judging, livestock, meats, and or range judging. So quite a few different judging teams that they have that they'll be discussing details. And then Project Expo, which you can learn how to put together a Project Expo exhibit, what the judges look for, and how to encourage 4-Hers to participate. And the fee for this is $5, and it is, again, on November 12th, which I believe is a Wednesday evening. It starts at 6:30 Central Time. Of course, Richardson is on Mountain Time, so it's 6:30 Central Time that we start, and it is done by 9:30. So it's a great evening full of a lot of information. So I encourage you, if you're interested, you can sure call our office, or registration forms are available at the NDSU Extension 4-H website. So that is all I have for 4-H stuff.
How about the archery thing that's going on, Carla, in October? Did you want to talk about that just a little bit? Because the registrations are online and open.
Yep,
correct?
registration's open this week. We are having, as part of the Fall Sportsman's Expo that Pucklet Chevrolet puts on, we are having an archery tournament. We're calling it the Fall Youth Shootout. It is October 24th and 25th. And I understand they just changed the times for Friday. So it starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we will go until 7 o'clock at night. Archery tournament itself, there are two different archery tournaments going on. One of them is through 4-H, and the other one is through the North Dakota Game and Fish Department, and that is with Genesis bows only. Our tournament is open up to all bows up to 55 pounds. And so if you're interested in that tournament, again, registration did go live this week, and we sent it out across the state. We've already had some registrations from Devil's Lake for the event, so very excited for that. It's $5 to shoot, and we'll be awarding gift certificates for the top 3 shooters in each category and age group. And then we'll be giving, for the first 100 registrations that come in, you will get a gift. So that is coming up the 24th and 25th. And it's, again, sponsored by Town Square Media and Pucklet Chevrolet.
Okay, and then they can register at the link at our website, or right?
Yep, it's on the North Dakota 4-H Shooting Sports and the North Dakota 4-H Youth Development Facebook page, and also on the Morton County Extension Service website. And there's a link there that will go right into a registration form, and you sign up what time you want to shoot, all that relevant information, name, birth date, address, parents' name, just way of contact information. And for this tournament too, we do require youth to come with all of the an adult to come with all the youth, so they have a parent or a guardian there to sign some waivers and forms that are required, so they are able to shoot.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, so that sounds like fun too.
Yeah, it'll be really fun, and it's part of the second annual Sportsman's Expo, so it's something new and exciting. And we'll also have the air rifle trailer there too as part of events for the Sportsman's Expo. So it should be pretty interesting.
Yep. How about you, Vanessa? Do you want to start just a little bit before we go to the break?
Yeah, I have a few programs that are coming up. Stress Management for Better Health is a program that we're going to be offering in September. Tuesday, September 16th at 10 a.m. I will be at Mandan Golden Age. And then also the next week, Wednesday, September 24th, I'll be offering this program in the courthouse at 9:30 and then again at 1:30. And those are all open to the public. You're welcome to give us a call at the office so that we have an idea that you're planning to attend. And it's totally free. Just give us a call at 667-3340. Whatever time would be a benefit and would work into your schedule. And we're going to talk about stress and how that relates to your health. Obviously, stress is something that we all have. In fact, we need to have some stress, otherwise we wouldn't get out of bed, especially on these nice, cool mornings when it would just be nice to snuggle and stay there. So we're going to talk about some of the common symptoms of stress. We're going to talk about ways that we can cope with stress in a positive way. We all do cope with stress, but sometimes we don't choose the best and most healthful way in order to do that. And so we're going to be discussing those ways and having people come together and create a personal action plan for themselves, setting some goals and setting some ways and steps that they will take after the program to begin tackling stress in their life. And so that will be a program coming up next Tuesday, September 16th, and also on September 24th, the following Wednesday. And I also have a program coming up called Dining with Diabetes that I've talked about before online. This is a program that will be held in November. So it is early, but we do fill up quickly. And so just making a note of that, we will be holding a morning session that will start at 9 a.m. and we'll go from 9 to 11:30, and then also an evening session from 5:30 to 7:30. Both of these sessions offer a meal as part of this training. It is a series of 4 classes. And so if you're interested in that, please contact our office we will help you get information on how to register. The cost for registration, which includes the meals and all the materials that you receive, is $25 for the person that's been diagnosed with diabetes. And then if you have somebody who's a supporter, who's your chef, who is the person who takes care of you and helps you from day to day, if you would like to bring them along, that would be an additional $10. And so we'd love to have you give us a call, and we'll help you with managing your diabetes and keeping you healthy. With that, we are getting the notice to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Right now, 46.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to the Extension Connection. We're on our third leg of our program today, and to start off is Ashley Stegman, and we're talking about a hint of frost. Hopefully it's going to be very minute.
I hope that it's going to be minute. We weekly for NDSU county agents, we have a horticulture call, and this was one of those hot topics this week. With the cold temperatures upon us, frost is out there, and we're wondering when it's going to strike. And a lot of people with their gardens are really concerned about getting any of their produce, because some of that produce may not quite be ready, but needs just a couple weeks to really finish up ripening. And a few tips about that frost that might be coming is that the first frost, which is typically a light frost, and that's anywhere from 29 to 32 degrees. That's not going to, I guess, end your garden's life. You're going to have a chance to bounce back a little bit, but usually followed by that light frost. 10 days later, you have a hard frost, and the hard frost is what you really need to be worried about. And there are some some techniques that you can go to protect your garden, and that is by laying down some tarps or some blankets. And I have even heard lightly sprinkling the garden, and actually some of that water, when it freezes on there, allows for some extra degrees to stay on the plants, and that can help with a light frost. And if you have any garden areas that are exposed, your garden that's not close to the house, you definitely want to make sure that you're covering those. And then any low spots in your garden, those are going to be the most vulnerable to damage from early frosts. Vegetable gardens, tomato, pepper, cucumber, squash, and melons, they're the most sensitive to, so you want to make sure that you get those covered for sure. And then broccoli, cabbage, carrots, and radish, they can tolerate the light frost, and they don't need that protection. And then the cool temperatures of the fall will actually improve the flavors of the broccoli, cabbage, and carrots and radish. So make sure that you don't have to be too worried about those with the frost, but you want to make sure that you get those before that hard frost really sets in. The frost may kill potato vines, but the underground tubers, they will be safe. Those potatoes, they're underneath your ground, so the soil temperature is warm enough yet that won't hinder any of your potatoes. Talking about some flowers, impatient zinnias and geraniums, those are very sensitive flowers. So if you have any of those flowers in your landscapes or even some container gardening, make sure you cover them, or if it is a container, you would want to bring those in. The same thing with vegetables. You want to make sure that you bring those container gardens in. Again, your hard frost is at 28 or colder. These lighter frosts, anywhere from 29 to 32 degrees, your vegetables will be able to survive that a little bit. Just to share a little information about our frost, typically, I guess, NDSU has a map that kind of tells you when, which areas of the state will most likely get that frost onset first. And of course, portions of farther west are more likely to get that frost first. And actually in the Morton County area, the central part of the state, are regular on an average year. September 16th to 19th would be our regular frost. And now they're actually moving that up to actually currently this week. So we'll see if that actually happens. And then just to add a little bit, as I'm talking about temperatures, if you are thinking about getting some trees planted, it's important to plant those trees a month before your soil temperatures drop below 40 degrees so you can have some root development. Otherwise, it may be a lost cause. And another topic that we talked about on our horticulture call was iron chlorosis, and that affects maple trees mostly. And if you are seeing some yellowing leaves, the green, the veins on the leaves are still green, but the leaves have turned yellow, it's more than likely iron chlorosis, and there isn't a treatment that's very effective in the fall, so you want to wait until the spring. Again, just to remember, your vegetables that are the most sensitive to frost are tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, and melons. And I think Vanessa has a little information to go along with some of those vegetables that are sensitive in the garden for frost.
Just 1 second, Ashley. I guess I go by, and I know a lot of people do go by the moon changes.
Okay.
And we had a moon change on Monday, the 8th. And so that's why I think we're seeing this change in temperature. And then also you're saying 10 days later, and so it's like the 23rd, when we will have the next moon change.
Okay.
And so lots of times when we get that moon change in September, we can expect frost in or around those dates.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, it's funny how science follows so many different paths.
Yes.
I know even with moon change, you can sense it in your kids too. So
Were they howling last night, Ashley?
let's just say they were up quite a bit.
So when Ashley was talking about frost, I know one of the big questions, I know as Ashley mentioned, that tomatoes are very susceptible to frost. And so that becomes a very important question that we get in the office a lot about canning tomatoes. We've been watering them all year and watching them and keep taking good care of them. And now we're worried about frost. Definitely follow the guidelines that Ashley was talking about to preserve them and to keep them on the vine so that they can ripen. However, if we do get that killing frost, the important thing to do is to either pick those tomatoes before the killing frost if you know it's imminent, or if you have time even right away that morning, if you come out and you realize that there has been a killing frost, you need to get them off the vine as soon as you can. While those tomatoes are hanging on the vine, if the vines have been killed by frost, it's a process of the acid level in those tomatoes are continually dropping, and so minutes count, and so the sooner you can get them off the vine, the better. Whenever you're doing tomatoes, we do recommend that you do add an additional acid when you're preserving tomatoes. And so adding the 2 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice is probably the easiest fix, and that's per quart. If you're canning pints, you just need to add 1 tablespoon. You can also use citric acid. However, that seems to be more difficult to find sometimes. And so bottled lemon juice is the way to go. You don't want to use a real lemon and squeeze your own juice, just because the commercially prepared bottled lemon juices have a threshold of the amount of acid that they require. And so you are more sure about the amount of acid that you're getting in those products versus just a fresh lemon that you really aren't as sure about the level of acid. We do have lots of publications in our office about canning tomatoes. Tomatoes, because of the acid content that tomatoes have and that we add to them, we are able to process them in a boiling water bath. And so for folks who don't like to use a pressure canner, that is a product that is an easy one for folks to can. And then we also do have recipes and times and pressures if you want to use the pressure canner for some of the recipes. Now, some recipes with tomatoes do require a pressure canner because we have added a significant amount of low acid foods, whether it's onions, celery, peppers, those kinds of things, or even in some cases we have a recipe for spaghetti sauce in which we've added meat, and so meat is another low acid, and so those types of recipes, the publication does indicate that you have to process them using a pressure canner. And so as I'm talking about adding the different things that we might add to tomatoes, what probably came to mind was salsa, which is one of those things that is very popular. In fact, salsa has now replaced ketchup as the #1 condiment. And here, because I don't like ketchup. So there you go. So I'm in all agreement. If you have a salsa recipe that is a favorite that has been passed down from neighbor to neighbor or so on, I encourage you to check that recipe and make sure that it does have that it is a safe recipe compared to other recipes that we have that have been researched and tested. If you can't find one that is similar to the recipe that you enjoy, you can always freeze that recipe. That is always a safe option. However, if you want to can them, I encourage you to use the recommended recipes that we have either in our tomato publication, or we also have 2 salsa publications. And we do also have salsa recipes that you can eat fresh, meaning that you don't have to worry about canning them. You can just mix them up, have them in the fridge, and have them available for you to eat with your family or friends or guests that you might have coming over. So really check out those recipes, and if you would like additional information, please call me at our NDSU Extension Service office at 667-3340. And we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the Extension Connection.
Right now, 46.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Hoynes, and before the break we were talking about canning and or freezing tomatoes and making salsa. One other thing that has been happening to home food preservers and canners is that I'm getting lots of questions about lids not sealing like they would like them to. And unfortunately, what's happened is that we are so used to doing it a certain way, and that folks are realizing that they have actually changed some of the directions on using those lids. It used to be that folks would always take the lids out, put them into water, and boil them or simmer them. Unfortunately, if you look really closely at lids that you're purchasing now, they have changed the directions. Now they tell you to just simply wash them, and you can put those lids on without heating them.
Really? I did not know that.
And in fact, if you heat them, and especially if you boil them, you may actually cause that sealant to thin out to the point that when you put it on your jar, it won't seal. And so just another example of just making sure that we need to follow the directions. And if you have old lids, even if the directions say to simmer, and I guess I should couch that in saying if they're not older than 10 years old. I mean, if they're really old, this isn't going to be true. But what Ball is saying is that they haven't changed the sealant, but instead they've done more research, and they've found that actually heating that sealant can cause more failures in seals than just washing them and leaving them cool as you put the lids on.
You know what? I guess I never look at the directions on the
Well,
lids.
I know who does.
Yeah.
Who does? Because you just know. Fortunately, our extension publications have always said to follow the directions on the lids, on the packaging of the lids. So we don't have to change any of our publications, luckily. But, it's just to get that message out to folks that they do need to take some precautions. And if you've purchased your lids in the last couple years and you're just using them up, I would recommend that you just not simmer them even. Just put them on, wash them clean, and then put them on cold. I know it seems kind of odd because everything else is nice and hot and sterilized and whatnot. I know we did talk about tomatoes, but obviously if you're canning, we were just talking about great peaches in the community. And so if you're canning peaches or other things like that, we do have guides and publications to help you in regards to canning peaches or freezing them or anything else. We've gotten lots of calls about corn on the cob. Yes, you can freeze corn on the cob. And in fact, it's a wonderful treat to have in the middle of January. Get that nice freshness of having that nice corn on the cob. And so if you have any questions about preserving any of the fruits of your labors in your garden or from farmers markets or so on, just give us a call at 667-3340 or go to our website, and all those publications are also available there. One other thing as we talk about the fall, and especially kids going back to school, it becomes a topic of interest. But then I think also it's a good reminder for all of us to think about breakfast. And so I'll ask the folks here, how many of you guys had a breakfast today? Everybody proudly raised their hands. All right, well, that's good. Well, hopefully everybody who's listening also had breakfast, because it's really important to, in order to avoid that morning slump, to have that breakfast, to get some fuel back in your stomach. Breakfast is named just because of exactly what happens, is that we're breaking the fast. We've had a fast. Our body has a fast all night while we're sleeping, and now we get up in the morning and we need to break that and give our bodies some fuel. And so having some things planned ahead of time, because sometimes we have schedules that are really busy in the morning. And so some things you could consider would be to keep the breakfast food, like different kinds of cereal, yogurt, milk, and fruit on hand, to always have that available. Or if you're really rushed in the morning and you have lots of kids and other people you're trying to get ready and out the door, you could set some things out ahead of time the night before. Put cereal bowls out, spoons, cereal boxes, even perhaps a bunch of bananas that would be ready for everybody to add milk, slice their bananas, and be on the way. Also, having some protein in the morning is a really good idea. Adding yogurt or definitely having some milk or hard-cooked egg can be a good help to making you feel full for a longer period of time, and just kind of keeping you on task for the whole morning. Also, building a breakfast burrito can be a lot of fun. In fact, we have a newsletter that talks about a recipe for a breakfast burrito. However, I think really anything you enjoy. This particular recipe talks about using a whole wheat flour tortilla, and then putting scrambled eggs, shredded cheese, salsa, and any kind of other vegetables that you'd like to add to that breakfast burrito would be an awesome beginning to a day. And if that's more, that would take more time for you than you would have on a normal weekday. Maybe that's a good Saturday or Sunday breakfast that you can have some fun with for you and your family. Also, using having like a fruit and yogurt smoothie can also be a fun treat for breakfast sometime, or also building a yogurt parfait. And having just some of those kinds of foods along that you can just grab and go, that will help make sure that you will definitely get something in your stomach before you leave the house, and before you end up with that mid-morning slump where somebody comes and asks you a question and you just don't know what they've even said because you just can't register that. So think about having that breakfast, and I'm glad everybody in the room here was able to say yes, that they had breakfast. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to fill you in on a couple other things.
All right. Thank you, Vanessa. I'm just going to briefly talk about the average age of cows in our herds in the U.S. Currently, cattle prices are at an all-time high, which is exciting for producers, but for some of us individuals that are on the other end of the spectrum, buying beef in the grocery stores is not always an exciting task, and we're probably going to continue to see some of those prices hold steady or continue to rise. And as I'm talking about the average age of our cows, there was a poll that was performed on Beef Daily. It's a blog done by Amanda Radke from South Dakota, and she asked producers what is the average age of your beef cows in your herd. And the half of her audience said that the average age of their cows was from 6 to 8 years old. 37% of her listeners said 3 to 5 years old, and there's only about 10% of the audience said that they have cows 9 years or older. We're probably going to be seeing a shift in that. We are probably going to see some of our cows getting up into the 9 years, being retained into the herd because of the low numbers that we have in our cow herds in the U.S. There's going to be a shift in our maturity of herds, and also there's an increased rate of retainment in heifers, and that is to try to grow the cow herd numbers, thus resulting in a decline in the number of heifers slaughtered yearly. And so with that information, we can think about some of the culling processes that we do have to perform in our herds, and sometimes the decision we would like to make is just black and white, and with the low numbers of our cows, sometimes we have to sometimes those decisions aren't black and white. Sometimes those are a little gray. And so whether it is because you were affected by the drought in 2012 and you're trying to build your herd back up, or you've had a few heifers that just haven't bred back as soon, or even some cows that just come up lane, you may be retaining them longer than you would like to. But that is, in the end, just the end goal is to have some growth to our herds in the U.S. And some of those custom culling processes that are encouraged is to select some of those older cows that may not produce as well. They're poorer producing cows, poor udders, and maybe poor disposition. And I know from industry, you don't like to always say goodbye to a number of your livestock, but it's sometimes needed. And again, we're just probably going to see some of those numbers for our maturity in our cows to grow. And with that, I guess I think Vanessa has a few dates that she will remind our viewers of.
Yeah, we started the program with this, but just to remind you that we have Managing Stress for Better Health is coming up next week on Tuesday at 10 o'clock at Manna and Golden Age. And then the following week on Wednesday, September 24th, I'll be presenting that program at 9:30 and 1:30 in the courthouse. And then if you're interested in Dining with Diabetes, I also have that coming up in November. And so make sure if you're interested to register early. And Jackie, do you want to mention about the range camp?
Yep, we have range camp this next week. And so if you're interested, please call our office at 667-3340 and by Friday. And then the dairy insurance meeting will be held on Monday, October 6th. And then there's a big game this weekend, of course. We got to remember that the Bison are playing Incarnate Word, and game day will be in Fargo, and I can't wait.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Yes, and so we will talk to you again in a couple of weeks when the Morton County Extension staff will be back with the Extension Connection.
You've been listening to Extension Connection on Super Talk 1270. News and information from NDSU Extension Service and representatives of Morton and Burleigh County Extension offices. Tell your friends to listen in for the next Extension Connection, exclusively here on Super Talk 1270.